Hello everybody, this is Howard, the Teaserking, coming to you with week 14 of college, basically the championship week. A lot of the conference championships are decided. Although to me, I think the whole format's wrong. I think the best two teams in each conference should play each other, not necessarily East versus West. I think that's like really stupid. Because what are you doing? You're not really getting anything that makes any sense, especially now with these playoffs, where the winner like moves on, to the playoff format or whatever. I find that to be just, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like Michigan State should be playing Ohio State this week, not Iowa. Why they're ranked number 4 makes no sense. I was looking at their schedule, and last team they beat was Pittsburgh and Northwestern. Pittsburgh's not even ranked. Northwestern, I don't know why they're ranked. They got blown out by Michigan and Ohio State. And ranking things is so stupid. It really makes no sense. But that's the problem with it. But that's okay because that gives us good opportunity to really crush some games that shouldn't even be played. Let's walk down the list. Northern Illinois is playing Bowling Green. Bowling Green's laying 12 or 13. The reason the spread's so high is Northern Illinois is basically playing their 5th string quarterback, or possibly their 4th string quarterback. In other words, but the first 2 guys who were good quarterbacks are out. So now you have to determine how bad's the 4th string quarterback, and how good's their defense. Are they going to run the ball? Can Bowling Green, are they going to put up their 50 points or not? So Northern Illinois is a very good team, a good defensive team. So it's hard to say. I'm leaning a little bit towards Bowling Green, latest 6.5, but very small. Sorry, I'm so tired. I'm on my medication for my cold and my flu, and I feel a lot better. I have more energy normally, but I just right still in my mouth is the problem. But I'm feeling a lot better. I actually had a full workout yesterday, which I haven't done in a week. So I like Bowling Green to win. The game's at Michigan at the Lions Stadium, so weather won't be an issue finally for Bowling Green. The backup quarterback, I can't play the over. The over 70 seems really high. Bowling Green will put up 40 points, but Northern Illinois, the backup quarterback, they choose to run the ball, will make it a closer game and a low-scoring game. So I would think it'd be under there. Georgia Southern's playing Georgia State, laying 21. Kind of like Georgia Southern here. Georgia State's got a pretty good quarterback, Arbuncle. They can, move the ball, but Georgia Southern's going to run it down their throat. I mean, Georgia Southern is like Air Force. They're going to run the ball down their throats. They can pass a little bit. They got a really good defense. Georgia State can throw the ball, but it's a big rivalry game. As you can get for Georgia Southern, Georgia State. And I like Georgia Southern here. Cut the 21 down to 15. I don't know if it's a blowout, but just looking at Georgia State and Georgia Southern, I think Georgia Southern pounds them pretty good. Arkansas State, Texas State. This game, Arkansas State's undefeated in conference play and wants to stay that way. Texas State's a fairly weak team, one of the weaker teams in the conference. Arkansas State's laying 25 with a really explosive offense. And Freddie Knight in the quarterback seems to throw and pass very well. So you cut him to 19. I'm sure they don't want to share the conference title because Georgia Southern's got one loss. Excuse me, I apologize. I'm so tired today. Georgia Southern's got one loss, so if they win, they're going to share the title. And I think Georgia Southern beat Arkansas State, but I know there'd be a three-way tie if App State wins. So, looking at it like this, I think Arkansas State wants to win the title on their own, and they're a very explosive team. So I think lately 19 here looks like a good play here. I don't see any issues. Texas State's not that strong, and Arkansas State's very explosive. So I definitely like that. It's funny, in Vegas last week, I gave Arkansas State was playing New Mexico State, and I'm at the bar, and I was talking to one kid, and I says, "You got any games for me?" I says, "Yeah, take Tulsa. They're going to kill Tulane." And he says, "You got anything else?" I said, "Yeah, play the over in the Arkansas State New Mexico State game, because New Mexico State's got a pretty good offense and a terrible defense." And it was like 70-71, and the final score was, I think they hit 80 or 82. So I'm glad that I got the kid some money. But Arkansas State's a very explosive team, but Texas State's not. So that's why I don't say go over here. But that's what you look for, is the explosive team playing the explosive team. So let's get to that. Western Kentucky, Southern Miss. Western Kentucky laying 7.5 for the title. It's a hard one. Southern Miss got Nick Mullins, very good quarterback, goes for a lot of yards. They got a runner. Western Kentucky, Brandon Daugherty, probably the best quarterback out there. Him or Paxton Lynch from Memphis, or I think Connor Cook's right up there from Michigan State. I think those are the top 3 or 4, maybe. And the kid from Bowling Green, Johnson's exceptional also. Those should be your top 4 quarterbacks drafted. If they're not, then this shows you why you got guys like, Case Keenum and who are some of these other idiots, Blaine Gabbert, playing in the NFL instead of guys like this. This is what blows my mind. But anyway, so you break down Western Kentucky. Yeah, -1.5. They're probably good, but Southern Miss can throw, and they pounded Louisiana Tech last week. Louisiana Tech threw 3 interceptions, and Southern Miss got a couple of fourth quarter runs that ended up being touchdowns. So the game got way out of hand, but they put up a 50 on Louisiana Tech. And Louisiana Tech's not bad. So that opens my eyes that Southern Miss can really score. Western Kentucky, we know, scores. I mean, they even put up 20-some on LSU. And in conference, they average 45, 46. I see this game going to 100. I mean, both teams should be in the upper 40s very easily. Over under, I got 72 up to 74, maybe 75. Tease it down under 70, 68 here. Very good play here. I think it's one of these. Both teams just have really good balanced offenses. They both can run, and they both have great quarterbacks. So I look for this to be very high scoring. Probably in the 50s for both teams, or 50 to 40, something like that. USC and Stanford. Stanford laying 4. I like Stanford again. The game's at Stanford. It's a home game. They beat them before as the dog at USC, 41-31. I look for more of the same. I mean, I don't know what USC shows up. Which team? The one that lost to Notre Dame, the one that lost to Oregon, the one that beat UCLA, the one that beat Arizona State. I mean, I'm so confused by USC. They're so inconsistent. You don't know who's showing up. But I think at the end of the day, Stanford's got their number. They play strong defense against them, and they run the ball against them. Watching the USC-UCLA game, and I had money on UCLA last week. UCLA handed them the game with some interceptions by Rosen, some bad passes. And they couldn't really, they got pressure on him, and he just choked. I don't see that happening with Stanford because they're going to run the ball down their throat. And when Hogan does pass, and Hogan can run around him, Rosen never really ran. So that little added dimension by Hogan of running, and the fact they can run well, and the fact their defense just shuts USC down. I just see Stanford winning. Florida, Alabama. Alabama laying 18 here is way too many points. Alabama doesn't win by 18. They barely beat Auburn. It was like an 8 or 9 point lead last week. I had teased them down to, I think, from 14 down to 8, and I'm sweating. Everybody's sweating. And they finally score. The minute left, the guy on a fourth down happens to score, and they win by 15 points against Auburn. How the heck they're going to beat Alabama by 8 or beat Florida by 18? Alabama is not a strong offensive team. However, they can run the ball very well, and that's what they do. They run and play defense. Florida basically has no offense and plays defense. So you're looking at to me, a very low-scoring game. I can't take Florida in 23. I mean, this team did crap against Florida State, who's not nearly as good as Alabama. Florida, I don't know how they're so good. I mean, they have no quarterback. Their offense is terrible. They have a very good defense. I don't know what they're doing, but I will tell you this game won't get very high scoring. I don't think either team hits 20. I mean, Florida does have a very good defense, and so does Alabama. So at the end of the day, they're going to run the big guy. Yeah, great, okay, fine, whatever. Florida will stop that, and Florida has no offense, so they're not going to do anything. So I just look for a very low-scoring game. The over-under is 40. I'd tease that to 46 and go under. I think that's a smart way to play. That's what I like about my kind of my new style playing this college, where I'm looking at over-unders also, because I think what that does is, like here, I take Alabama minus 11. How can I take Florida in 23? But this solves all the problems. Is you go under because neither team's got an offense. So that's kind of my point. That's the beauty of it. Clemson laying 6 to North Carolina. I like North Carolina in 12 here. Clemson hasn't played anybody. Who'd they really beat? Florida State. Not much of a quarterback at the time with that kid from Notre Dame. And the only other, they barely beat Louisville, and they beat Notre Dame and Florida State. Everybody's giving them credit like they're the greatest team in the world, and then you look at the rest of the conference, they haven't beaten anybody. Georgia Tech, I don't even think they played Duke. North Carolina, who did they beat? Well, nobody. The best team they beat was Duke and Miami. They beat Virginia Tech. I mean, they've scored a lot of points. I like their coach. I think they offensively will score. The game's in Atlanta, or I don't know where. No, the game's in Charlotte at the Carolina Panthers home. So that's an edge for North Carolina. I like the over in this game also at 67, 68. You go over 61, 62. That could be the more prudent play because North Carolina will score. But as we saw against Virginia Tech, it was 30 to 27, so it's a 57, which won't get there in this situation. I think Clemson's got a little bit more offense than Virginia Tech and a little less defense. I don't think either team's got a lot of defense. This is actually a good matchup of 1 versus 2 in the conference, unlike all the others. This is a good matchup. But I like the dog in this game. I'm not buying Clemson's number 1. Ohio State and Michigan State are number 1 by a mile. I don't know how Michigan State beat Ohio State, but they did. So you got to put them 1, and then you got to put Ohio State 2 because Ohio State beat anybody else. That's your top 2. Clemson's a long way away from that. Ooh, they beat Notre Dame by 2. Ooh, in a rainy day. I mean, come on, man. Give me a break. Clemson is nowhere near number 1. So I definitely like that. And then Michigan State and Iowa. Michigan State laying 3, 3.5. I like Michigan State here laying the 3. As I just mentioned, they beat Ohio State. They can beat Iowa. Here's where Michigan State should be playing Ohio State for the title. It should be a playoff game. This should be like the first round of the playoffs. Michigan State, Ohio State, North Carolina, Clemson. Alabama should not be playing Florida. They should be playing Ole Miss. And Ole Miss should be in there because they beat Alabama. And Stanford should probably be playing Utah, not USC. Things like that. But that's my thought process. Um, but Iowa, I don't see. I just looked at their schedule. The best team they beat was Pitt and Northwestern. Woo. Northwestern, probably not even a top 25 team. Yeah, they get credit for beating Stanford early on in the season, but really, they played Michigan, lost like 35 to nothing or 38 to nothing. And, I don't know if they've even played Ohio State, but they got buried by a bunch. And they don't have an offense or a quarterback. Um, the next best team Iowa beat was Wisconsin, 10-6. So I just don't. I'm not buying Iowa as a top 20 team. They're undefeated, but if Baylor played their schedule, Baylor would be undefeated. So would TCU. So would Florida State. So would Notre Dame. So would USC. So would Nebraska. I mean, we can go on and on down the list. If a lot of these teams would play that schedule, the whole SEC would be undefeated if they played that schedule. So, you can't look at 12-0 and say, wow, they're a great team because they're 12-0. Um, you know, everybody's knocking North Carolina for playing two FBS teams. Who the hell did Iowa, like I said, their toughest team was Wisconsin, who's not that good, and Northwestern. So, they haven't played anybody in the top 20. I don't look at those Wisconsin, Northwestern as top 20 teams. Michigan State will not lose this game, I guarantee it. Especially with Connor Cook back. He's the heart and soul. Like I told you in my Vegas story, as soon as I saw him playing, there's no way they're going to lose. Obviously, he's healthy. He played last week. I assume he's playing this week. It's indoors. We're not going to get rain and cold, which I like. Their offensive line seems back, Michigan State. They're getting guys back in the secondary. I don't think Iowa can take advantage of the secondary anyway. They don't have a decent quarterback, and they don't really have good receivers. Not like Ohio State or some of these other teams like in Indiana, who was taking advantage of Michigan State and really shredding them. Even Rutgers, Iowa doesn't have that type of offense. I don't really know what they do. There don't seem to be. They're an average defensive team. They get some takeaways. They can seem to run the ball, but guess the one thing you never can do against this Michigan State team is run the ball. They'll take that away. You cannot run on it. You couldn't run on it. Stanford couldn't run on it in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State couldn't run on it in the rain. Michigan couldn't run on it. You cannot run on Michigan State's defense, period. The only way to beat it is to pass it. Baylor, yes, they'd beat it. Teams like that, TCU, yes, they would beat them. I'm trying to think. I would give Western Kentucky a better chance than Iowa because they can throw the ball all over the place. You cannot beat it running, and Iowa will not gain 60 yards rushing. I don't think they'll gain 200 yards total on offense. They don't scare me defensively. Cook basically will definitely find a way. Remember, they beat Ohio State and Oregon. They beat Oregon when Oregon was at full strength. So let's not kid around here. They beat Oregon, who's got a much better offense than Iowa. They beat Ohio State, who's got a much better defense than Iowa, with their backup. And that's the point here. There's no way Michigan State does not win this game. Michigan State will go into the playoffs. I'm hoping North Carolina beats Clemson because really the best four would be Michigan State, Ohio State. I'll give you Alabama, but they're not the best four. And then Oklahoma doesn't deserve to be there at all. So we'll give you that one. But theoretically, Baylor and Mississippi should be there at Alabama and Oklahoma. But that's another story. Anyway, those are the picks. And that mess was 3 locks. And again, I'm locking the team. So whatever that means. I had 5 lock winners last week. I have a huge lock going this week. Huge 35 unit play. It's the biggest play I've had this year. Last week's was the biggest of the year. Carolina, Ohio State was 25 units. That won easily. This is a 35 unit play. Biggest one this year. Definitely well worth your time to buy the locks, if nothing else, this week. I have 4 locks going, and definitely it'll be a huge week. My lock record lately, let's see, was 29-3, 32-3, 37-4 is my lock the last 41. Been on fire. It would have been 38-4 had Michigan State. If I knew Cook was playing 3 hours earlier, it would have been 38-4 because I would have locked Michigan State last week. So anyway, good luck, but highly recommend the lock this week. You find somebody else 38-4 documented, let me know. I don't think anybody can touch that record because I play more than one lock. I don't just say, oh, I got one lock. This week's 4. Last week was 5, but I hit all 5. It was a beautiful week last week, and the only one that made me sweat was Arizona. Carolina was sweet. Ohio State. Tulsa was interesting. That came through at the end, and Minnesota Vikings. I love when I can lock a dog like Minnesota and Carolina. All right. Anyway, so that's what's new, and good luck to everybody. Again, www.teaserking.com. Again, huge lock going this week. Definitely buy this lock. 34.